Should biological males and their penises be allowed in women's change rooms? Yes or no? Trans inclusion has now become the new and improved vehicle for woke misogyny, a stunningly careless disregard for the female experience and its inherent biologically born vulnerabilities. And as a consequence, those who have swallowed the woke blue pill, those still inside the politically correct PC matrix, are pushing for the gradual erosion of females' sex-based rights, sometimes without realizing it, in the name of compassion toward and inclusion of biological males who say, I feel like or am a woman. The evil patriarchy that supposedly subjugates women and their experience to the desires of men, this evil patriarchy now wears a dress. And when it comes to the erosion of female sex-based rights, like having access to female-only spaces, I want to be clear here. We're not just talking about anyone. We're talking about your mother, the woman who gave you life, who took care of you through infancy, who protected you from the harms of the world. That same person, your mother, she can no longer use a women's change room without the possibility of being exposed to a stranger's penis. And worse, the owner of the penis being celebrated as a courageous trans woman, a biological male who mouths the words and narcissistically proclaims or demands, I am woman. And worse, if your mum says anything, she is the problem. She's the bigot. Now, how is this possible? How did we even get here? How did we eventuate? How do we bring about these circumstances, and who is to blame? Uncomfortable truth here, but you are. You are. I am. You and I are to blame for this, for we, in our complacency, in holding our tongues, in being polite and inclusive, we have enabled this. And now who suffers? Women. Your mother, my sisters, your wife, your girlfriend, your daughter, all because we have not said the necessary, firm, and timely no to narcissistic professional victims and their enablers. So let me give you a situation. What would you do here? A biological male walks into the change rooms after your mother and proceeds to undress and reveal his dick. But, it's in the name of inclusion and progress, and trans rights are human rights. So what would you do? Should biological males and their penises be allowed in women's change rooms? Yes or no? That is today's question. Now, you can probably already gauge my position on this, which is fine. People sometimes think that because the channel's called Common Ground Conversations, I'm just going to roll over and compromise on anything to find agreement, and that is not the case. I do, in fact, surprise, surprise, have a spine, and I like to think for myself. Truth and reason come first here, and then common ground. So let me walk you through my thinking, and let us also see what people think about it and why. So should biological males be allowed in women's change rooms?
No.
No, okay.
No. I would say no.
No?
Yeah.
Biological males?
Yeah.
No.
No.
No?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Most people say an intuitive no to this one, especially when I give myself as an example. Should I be allowed in women's change rooms?
No. No, definitely not, right?
No.
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 Can't see why not.
Again, most people, big no. Your mother, your sisters, they deserve a space where they can get changed away from biological males like me. But here's where the division starts. What if I identify as a woman? Should trans women be allowed in women's change rooms? And if so, why?
Not if they look like you.
No, I think so. I don't think they're a threat.
As a male? No. Definitely no.
No?
No.
If you identify as a woman, yes.
Yeah.
No.
In my opinion, no.
What if I identified as a woman? Would that change it for you?
No,
Same.
Look, I'm assuming you can control yourself if you're around women.
There is a large number of people now that say, yes, trans women should be allowed in women's change rooms. Now, to figure out why this is, we need to ask then, what is a trans woman? How are they different to someone like me?
Well, maybe nothing, but the thing is you look like a man.
I'm going to say that a trans woman is a person that has had an operation to change their natural features.
So a trans woman is someone who has or is going through transition to become female or has transitioned.
You say a man and some trans woman says she's trans?
Well, it's their choice, and I'm all for choice.
Now, the common response here is that trans women, whilst they may have the same biological sex as me, they have a different gender, and therefore they should be allowed to use women's change rooms. But then what is gender? Most people who say yes to trans women using women's change rooms will say something along the lines of, gender is how you identify. But what does that even mean? If I say I am a woman, what am I really saying? Two things. One, it could mean, based on my stereotype of what biological females are like and what biological males are like, I fit more closely into the group with the biological females. That might be what's meant by saying I am a woman. Or two, it could also mean, please, I would like to be treated in a more female typical manner because that's what makes me feel more comfortable or authentic, again, whatever that means. It's a rejection of manhood expectations to, say, provide and protect, and to instead take on perhaps womanhood expectations, vulnerability, and perhaps the need to be protected and provided for. And we've actually met a gent who had this exact experience. He identified as a woman briefly for a short period of time because in hindsight, he said he realized he was afraid of embracing and growing into his masculinity. And whether you personally like him or not, he credited Andrew Tate with emboldening him on this front. But I digress. If gender is choosing to present in a more male typical or female typical way and have people treat you in a more male typical or female typical way to ensure that you feel more comfortable, why should that have any bearing over what change room you use? Now, some will say, well, the trans woman wouldn't feel comfortable using the men's change room. Fair enough, that might be the case, but presenting as trans is their choice. My mother's biological vulnerability and her need to be protected accordingly from male strangers, she didn't choose that. And then you'll hear the objection, but trans women don't mean any harm and they're not pervs. Potentially, but then tell me this, how do you distinguish between a well-meaning trans woman, and a sexual predator gaming the system to prey on women? Well, the answer is you can't, unless you believe that people are exactly what they say they are. And that's technically speaking naive. People are not just what they say they are. And if you haven't learned that yet, you're in for a surprise and a rude awakening. Not anyone and everyone is to be trusted on the face value of their words, especially when your mother's safety, your sister's safety, your wife's safety, your daughter's safety is on the line. Sexual predators appropriating womanhood to game the system is a reality if we are operating on the premise that things ought to be separated by gender and not sex. Take Adam Graham, or his fake name, Isla Bryson, as an example.
Isla Bryson, who changed gender while waiting to go on trial for rape, has today been sentenced to 8 years in prison for raping 2 women. The 31-year-old met both victims online. Prosecutors said Bryson had preyed on vulnerable women.
Convicted double rapist of women just like your mother. And this rapist said, I am a woman, and was housed in the women's prison. Similarly, in the US at WeSpa, a biological male says, I am a woman, and thinks himself entitled to whipping his dick out in front of women and girls in the women's change rooms.
Controversy at a health club in Koreatown over the issue of gender.
It's okay for a man to go into the women's section, show his penis around the other women, young little girls underage. Your spa, WeSpa, condone that. Is that what you're saying? I see a dick. It lets me know he's a man. He is a man. He is a man. He is not no female.
That is trans inclusion for you. That is the evil patriarchy subverting females' rights. That is politically correct and condoned woke misogyny. You are not just what you say you are. You are also your body, your biology, your actions, and the reputation that they earn you. Identity is not just self-defined, it is also socially mediated. Now, 2 common objections I'd like to quickly knock on the head. 1, trans women aren't predators, or the number of predators is insignificant. There are only a small number of sexual assaults or rapes that occur as a consequence of gender-separated bathrooms and change rooms instead of sex-separated. To which I would respond, how many avoidable rapes or sexual assaults is too many in your eyes? And would you like to volunteer the women in your life for your little experiment? Because I, for one, will not. I will be protecting my sisters, my mother, my future wife and daughters. And if the cost is that trans women, males who wear a dress, don't get to use female-only spaces, done. And 2, the second objection, a male who wants to rape or commit sexual assault will get it done regardless of whether they have access to women's safe spaces or not, and people using this as a reason for condoning gender-separated, self-identified gender-separated spaces instead of sex-separated spaces. To this I would say you've clearly never seriously taken responsibility for the protection of a female from predators, and I truly pity your future daughters and the women you are responsible for protecting if that is your attitude. No need taking any precautions given predators will get it done either way. To me, that is naive abdication of responsibility and complete disregard for females and their biological vulnerabilities. So in closing, what should we do? Should we keep existing change rooms as sex separated? Should we make exceptions for trans women? And if so, under what circumstances? Is it passing or surgery or just putting on a dress and lipstick and saying, I am woman? What do you think? I would genuinely like to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let's get a discussion going. If you think I've missed anything, I want to hear it. But one thing I know for certain, I want my mother and sisters safe, and I want them treated with the dignity that they deserve, away from the prying male gaze and potential sexual predation. When they go into the change rooms, I don't want male strangers thinking themselves entitled to using the space. The women's change rooms designed to give my mother and sisters privacy and safety. Now, if you want to pop a dress and lipstick on, you do you, man. But that is your choice. And if that makes you uncomfortable in the men's change rooms, that is your doing, your choice. And as much as you want rights, you must also bear the responsibility for the choices you make and the actions that you take. My mother and sisters don't get to choose their biological vulnerabilities, and no amount of your narcissism and entitlement and name calling, bigot this and bigot that, is going to make me say, yes, in the name of inclusion, everyone should completely trust you, a male stranger, on face value. It's a no from me. But I will add, it's a compassionate no at that. If you're that entitled and set on using a space that was designed for biological females to undress away from your male gaze and potential sexual predation, you're the one that has the issue. And truly, I hope you find some help from a good psychologist away from the affirmation-obsessed enablers you may currently be surrounded by. And a final note how a lot of the people advocating for trans rights aren't actually happy or satisfied with the following solution: female only, male only, and unisex spaces. Now, you then have to ask yourself, why is that? Why is that? Why is that not an appropriate solution? Food for thought. And hypothetically, if that were a practical solution, female only, male only, and unisex, who is going to pay for it? Because like I said, if you are a male and you want to put a dress on, you do you, but do not expect my money or my productivity to fund your feeling comfortable. You can pay for that yourself once you've become a productive member of society, instead of the all too common professional victim role many of these types take on and appropriate. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, remember to say no if you think it is appropriate. Inclusion to no end is no virtue. And now women, your mother, your sisters, your wife, your daughter, they are the ones who suffer from your and my complacent silence in the name of assuaging and appeasing the tantrums, emotional manipulation, and intimidation from males who appropriate womanhood and their enablers. Karen from HR or the blue-haired SJW that is hell-bent on making you take a knee to the PC matrix. Do not do it. Think deeply, speak your mind in pursuit of truth, reason, and the highest good. Until next time, ladies and gents, Godspeed.